Whether the treatment is taking place in a barn or stable with a horse, or in a clinic or at home with a dog, there should be plenty of room for the therapist, the animal, and the handlers to work around one another. This area should also be familiar to the animal to ensure there is no added stress from being in an unfamiliar environment. The area should have sufficient lighting, and it should be as quiet as possible to reduce the distractions for the animal or the therapist. When treating any animal, it is important for the therapist to wash and sanitize their hands to avoid contamination from one animal to another. Approaching the animal slowly and calmly will allow the animal to get used to the therapist being around and reduce the risk of them becoming stressed by the unfamiliar person. Allowing the animal to have their space and take their time to get used to the therapist is vital, as the animal must feel safe enough to accept treatments from the therapist. Avoiding biting and kicking zones is also sensible when first approaching and handling horses and dogs. Handlers should stay on the same side as the therapist so that the animal does not feel overwhelmed by having people on either side during treatment. Handlers should also stay away from the biting and kicking zones during treatment, as the animal may negatively react to certain aspects, which could lead to the handler becoming injured. It may be sensible for the handler to wear a helmet around the horse to reduce the risk of the head injury if the horse was to become stressed. The therapist may choose to wear a helmet around new or difficult cases to reduce the risk of head injury which could be caused by the horse becoming stressed. Ensuring that the therapist keeps their face and hands out of the dog's face reduces the risk of them being bitten on the face or hands, as the dog may lash out and bite if they feel intimidated. Having an easy and quick escape route out of the stable or barn away from the horse will ensure that the therapist and or handlers are able to get away if the horse becomes stressed, reducing the risk of being crushed or injured. Assessments will enable the therapist to identify what areas of the body to focus on when applying treatments and avoid treating areas that do not need treating, which could cause problems. Performing assessments will allow the therapist to recognise which treatments would actually be suitable for that area and which would do more harm than good. Initial assessments provide a starting point in order to establish the end goal of treatments and therapy and enable the owner and therapist to monitor the progress of the animal.
Temporal mandibular joint and the craniothoracic spine. Ring of the atlas. Scapular cartilage. Or scapular spine. The acromion of the scapula. The cranial part of the greater tuberosity of the humerus. The deltoid tuberosity. Lateral epicondyle of the humerus. Electron. Accessory carpal bone. The dorsal processes of thoracic and lumbar vertebrae and anticlinal.
Is the anticlinal T10?
Tuber cocci. Tuber sacrale. Tuber ischi. The cranial part of the greater trochanter of the femur. Lateral condyle of the femur. Tibial tuberosity. The patella. The calcaneal tuberosity. The lateral malleolus of the fibula. And the medial malleolus of the tibia.
Masseter. The masseter raises the mandible for mastication.
Trapezius.
The trapezius draws the scapula dorsally.
Rhomboideus.
The rhomboideus draws the scapula dorsally.
Transversarius.
This protracts the forelimb.
Brachiocephalicus.
This protracts the forelimb and draws the neck to the side.
Supraspinatus.
This extends and stabilizes the shoulder.
Infraspinatus.
This flexes and abducts the shoulder.
Deltoideus.
This flexes the shoulder.
Triceps brachii.
This extends the elbow.
Biceps brachii.
This flexes the elbow.
Serratus ventralis.
This supports the trunk and raises the neck.
Superficial pectorals.
For trunk limb attachment.
Deep pectorals.
This supports the trunk and retracts the forelimb.
Latissimus dorsi.
This retracts the forelimb and stabilizes the shoulder.
Longissimus dorsi.
This stabilizes and extends the vertebral column.
Iliocostalis.
This fixates the vertebral column.
Gluteus medius.
This extends the hip.
Iliopsoas.
This flexes and supinates the hip.
Pectineus.
This is medial. And this abducts the hind limb.
Vastus lateralis.
This flexes the stifle.
Biceps femoris.
This extends the hip and stifle.
Semitendinosus.
This extends the hip, stifle and hock.
Semimembranosus.
This is also medial. And it extends the hip and stifle.
Gracilis.
This extends the hip and flexes the stifle.
And gastrocnemius.
And this extends the hip and
plexus is tightened.
Temporomandibular joint.
Yep.
Wing of Atlas.
Yep.
Transverse processes of C3, 4 and 5.
Yep.
Dorsal processes of the withers area.
Yep.
Scapular cartilage.
Yep.
Scapular spine.
Yep.
Cranium part of the greater tuberosity of the humerus.
Yep.
Deltoid tuberosity.
Yep.
Lateral epicondyle of the humerus.
Yep.
Olecranon.
Yep.
Accessory carpal bone.
Yep.
Tuber coxae.
Yep.
Tuber sacral.
Yep.
Tuber ischii.
Yep.
Greater trochanter of the femur.
Yep.
Lateral condyle of the femur.
Yep.
Tibial tuberosity.
Yep.
Patella.
Yep.
Calcaneal tuberosity.
Yep.
Lateral malleolus of tibia. Superficial digital flexor tendon.
Yep.
Deep digital flexor tendon.
So the superficial and the digital flexor tendon are responsible for carpal and digital flexion and elbow extension.
Yep. Suspensory ligament.
And that will just wrap around the front of the foot. The suspensory ligament is responsible for preventing overextension of the metacarpophalangeal joint.
Annular ligament.
The annular ligament is responsible for supporting the flexor tendons.
Common digital extensor tendon.
The common digital flexor tendon is responsible for carpal and radial extension.
Lateral digital extensor tendon.
The lateral extensor tendon is responsible for metacarpophalangeal joint extension.
Lateral cartilages.
The lateral cartilages act as shock absorbers.
Masseter.
This raises the mandible for mastication.
Rectus, capitis, dorsalis, major and minor.
This elevates the head.
Obliquus, capitis, cranialis.
This extends and flexes the head.
Trapezius.
This elevates the shoulder.
Rhomboideus.
scapula dorsally. Yep.
Splenius.
This extends, elevates and draws the scapula.
Sternocephalicus.
This flexes the head and neck.
Brachiocephalicus.
This flexes the head and neck.
Supraspinatus. Bless you.
This stabilizes and extends the shoulder.
Infraspinatus.
This abducts and flexes the shoulder.
Deltoideus.
This flexes the shoulder. Yep.
Triceps brachii.
This extends the elbow. Yep.
Biceps brachii.
This flexes the elbow. Yep.
Serratus ventralis.
This supports the trunk and raises the neck.
Subclavius.
This stabilizes the shoulder.
Superficial pectorals.
Trunk limb attachment.
Deep pectoral.
This supports the trunk and retracts the forelimb. Yep.
Latissimus dorsi.
This retracts the forelimb and flexes the shoulder.
Longissimus dorsi.
This stabilizes and extends the vertebral column. Yep.
Iliocostalis.
And this fixates the vertebral column.
Yep. Gluteus medius.
This extends the hip.
Tensor fascia latae.
This extends the hip and the stifle.
Vastus lateralis.
This flexes the stifle.
Biceps femoris.
This extends the hip and stifle.
Semitendinosus.
This extends the hip, hock and stifle.
Semimembranous.
This extends the hip and stifle.
Gastrocnemius.
This flexes the stifle and extends the hock.